Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna work on basic wall framing, how to do it in 3 easy steps. Come on, let's go. So step 1 is layout, okay? So with typical wall framing, we have a top plate and a bottom plate. We lay out our studs every 16 inches. So every 16 inches, there needs to be a stud. So let's do that now. As you can see here, I've laid out a top plate and a bottom plate. I'm gonna start by adding a stud on the very end. And then every 16 inches, we're gonna add another stud. I usually go 3/4 of an inch back from my 16-inch mark so that any boards or drywall that we attach to the wall is gonna land directly centered on that stud. So instead of 32, I'm gonna go 31 1/4, and so forth and so on. So now that we've made our marks every 16 inches, we're gonna transfer them onto both plates. And keeping in mind that the X goes to my right. So we'll continue and lay out both plates. Done. So now guys, as you can see, we've taken our bottom plate and our top plate, which are the same length, and we've laid out a stud every 16 inches, okay? The marks are identical, they're in the same place on both plates. Step 1 is done. Okay guys, so step 2 now is placing our studs and securing them to our top plates. Okay, so we're gonna lay our plates down, put our studs in, and then secure them. Let's do that. And I make sure that I don't change the direction of them. I just simply take this one and roll it over. I don't want to flip it, because if I flip it and it's wrong, we'll have a problem. And then I take my studs, which are right here, and I start putting them in place. So I'm placing one on every X. We have one stud on every X. We move our plate down in place. Keep in mind, guys, your stud height is determined on, your existing conditions. So standard stud height nowadays is 92 1/4 inches. So in this case, we use 92 1/4 inch studs. Now we're gonna secure our studs to our plate. A couple different ways to do this. It really doesn't matter. You can use screws, you can use nails. In this case, we're gonna use nails. What you do wanna do is use 2 screws or 2 nails going down in from the plate into the stud. Okay, so 2 is important. So every stud gets 2 screws or 2 nails. So let's do it. Okay guys, so first things first, when we nail up our studs, we just wanna make sure that everything is flush and nice and even. And then we fasten the stud using 2 nails. So 2 nails into each stud. And keeping in mind, while we're doing this, guys, we're following our marks. We've got our X on this side, and we're working our way along. We make sure to do the top, all of them, and then we'll switch and do the bottom. Now we move to the bottom. Keeping in mind that our X's are in the right spot. All done. So step 2 is placing our plates, putting our studs in and securing them. Keeping in mind that you don't have to use nails, you could use screws if that's easier. Now we move on to phase 3. All right, guys, so step 3 in building our wall is blocking, okay? So a couple tricks with blocking. Usually what we do is we measure from the bottom of our plate, and in this case, we're gonna use this as our bottom, and we measure up 4 feet, okay? We make a mark at 4 feet on one end, and then we go across and do the exact same thing on the other end. 4 feet. In order to connect the 2 lines, I use a snap line. If you don't have a snap line, that's fine. Snap it, and you guys can see that I've got a nice line all the way through that indicates 4 feet. Now, measuring our blocks and cutting our blocks, what I like to do is instead of measuring the blocks where you snapped your line, I like to measure at the top or the bottom. And the reason why is because these studs that we bought may or may not be perfectly straight. And in the event that they're bowed and crooked, if I take a measurement where they're bowed and crooked, obviously it's not gonna be an accurate measurement. The goal here is to have all your studs perfectly straight from top to bottom. In order to do that, as long as I measure in between at the bottom or the top, we'll have a firm block measurement. So just so you know, every block should be, aside from the first one, should be right around the same because we did an even layout. Even layout for blocks, 16 on center, is about 14.5 inches. So you can see 14.5, 14.5, 14.5, 14.5. That just goes to reinforce that our stud layout is in fact 16 inches on center. So we're gonna cut a bunch of blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, 14.5, and then the 2 on the ends, they're special. 13 and 7, 16. And this one's 5 and 7/8. So now we're gonna go cut our blocks. 13 and 7, 16. Using a circular saw to cut these. That's one. If you don't have a circular saw, a chop saw works fine. My last block at 14.5. And we place them. I place one block in each bay. When fastening and securing the blocks, guys, same thing, screws or nails. Either one, it doesn't matter, whatever's more convenient, whatever you have around the house is fine. In this case, I'm gonna use nails, but same application, 2 nails. What I do is I'll nail my blocks staggered. So when I mean staggered is the blocks will kind of alternate on either side of the line. So my line is at 4 feet, which we measured. First block is gonna go below the line, second block is gonna go above the line. The reason why we do that is so that it's very accessible to get your screws or your nails in. And I'll go through and nail all one side. Go all the way down and nail one side. Now I come back and nail off the other side. While I come back and nail off my blocks, I'm kind of fine tuning them with my hammer, straightening them out. So now we're done. You can see we staggered our blocks and we got good nailing on each side. The reason why we do that obviously is so we have access to it. The blocks help straighten out the studs. So as they're milled and they come in from the factory, sometimes they warp and twist because it's real wood. The blocks help straighten and align everything so it's nice and consistent. Last step in blocking, etc., is to put our second top plate on. So let's go grab it. So the last and final step in our building our wall, guys, is adding our second top plate. Most walls come with 2 top plates. You don't have to use 2 top plates unless it's a structural wall, but in this case, we're gonna use 2. And we fasten our second top plate after all of our nailing is done, and then we throw the wall up. So on the second top plate, same thing, I stagger my nails. I went up on that bay. I'm gonna go down on this one. Up. Down. Up. Down. And then one on the very end. And we're done. Basic wall framing, 3 simple steps. We put the wall up and we're done. Ben, you wanna help me?
Do I have a choice?
He has a choice. So basically, guys, when you're throwing up any walls or doing anything like this, it's always best to do it with 2 people, just to make sure nobody gets hurt.
Use your legs. Squat.
Use your legs. Put the wall up and walk it into place. As you can see, very simple, right? We've got our studs at 16 inches on center, which we did in step 1 by laying them out, top and bottom plate. Then we placed our studs and secured them with 2 nails on each side, right? And then we went through and marked 4 feet for our blocking and then staggered our blocks. So guys, super, super simple. If you think that this is helpful in any way, let us know. We'd love to hear your guys' feedback. If you want a more detailed description on how to frame a wall, maybe with a wall or a window opening or a door opening in it, there's a link up here where we go into a little bit more detail. But basic wall framing 101, 3 easy steps. Hope you enjoyed it.